Long before the age of fighting games, the legendary general, strategist, and philosopher Sun Tzu provided us a guide to playing them. It's called The Art of War, and though it can be tricky to translate its practices and thought processes to fighting games, I already did that part for you. Please enjoy. Warfare must be thoroughly pondered and analyzed because it is the way, the Tao, to survival or extinction. In the world of fighting game competition, we're often forced to rush into battle without any time for preparation. But when it comes to familiar players or tournament matches, this does not have to be the case. Sun Tzu developed a method of mentally preparing oneself for battle according to 5 factors. He named it the initial estimation, and it translates quite well to fighting games. Factor 1 is the Tao. It causes one to be fully in accord with their ruler. They will live by the ruler, die by the ruler, and not fear danger. It's a rather abstract concept, the Tao, but many scholars have come to the same conclusion when searching for its true meaning. The Tao is an unbreakable sense of morality and purpose. The Tao is one's resolve. Now, since fighting game matches are typically fought out in single combat, we must look within ourselves to find our ruler. We humans are emotionally driven beasts, so the ruler within us is our heart. To develop one's Tao, one's resolve, they must ensure that their heart and mind are in sync. It's not an easy task, but what is easy is determining whether your Tao is strong or needs a lot of work. If you often find yourself afraid to take the risks necessary for victory, it's a sign that your Tao is not fully developed. Don't worry, that's abstract as we're gonna get for now. The second factor is heaven. It encompasses the yin and the yang, cold and heat, and the constraints of the season. Essentially, heaven accounts for the factors outside of your control. In a fighting game setting, possessing knowledge of heaven equates to knowing the rules of the game. Having a core understanding of your game's system mechanics and the basis for all interactions, frame data, would mean that you have a solid understanding of heaven. The third factor is also rather simple. It is Earth, and it asks the questions far or near, difficult or easy, expansive or confined. The Earth is the stage or setting of your match. Is it ranked or casual? Online or in person? Is the crowd quiet? Is it loud? Is it rooting for you or is it indifferent? The qualities of your setting are somewhat in your control, and if you're more comfortable on the stage of battle than your opponent is, then the factor of Earth is in your favor. In other words, pick your battleground wisely, or do whatever you can to make it more ideal for you. Next is the fourth factor, the general. This is comprised of your wisdom, credibility, benevolence, courage, and discipline. Basically, this is your mind, the pilot of your faculties. Being able to remain calm, focused, and confident in stressful situations is a sign of a disciplined mind. Hone it through education and experience outside of the game, and you'll have an easier time adapting and controlling your emotions in-game. This factor is also closely intertwined with the Tao. Sometimes your heart will control your brain, and sometimes your brain will control your heart. So make sure they want the same thing. That brings us to the fifth and final factor, the laws, encompassing organization, regulation, command, and logistics. This one is all about your methods of engagement. It's the character you choose to play, and the style in which you play them. Fast or slow, rush down, zoner, or something in between. Regardless of your matchup advantages and disadvantages, a solid understanding of your opponent's character and play style could help you control the pace of the match and achieve victory. Sun Tzu says, "There are no generals who have not heard of these 5 factors, and now you, as your own general, have." If you can, you should contemplate these factors for both yourself and your opponent before you meet on the field of battle. though creating your own system to measure these factors would be quite the task. Luckily, 2 already did that part, providing a comparative evaluation system. Just a few questions to make measuring the 5 factors easy. Here, I will include both Tsu's questions and how they translate to fighting games. 1. Which ruler has the Tao, or whose heart and mind are in accord? 2. Which general has the greater ability, or who has the stronger mentality? 3. Who has gained the advantages of heaven and earth, or who is more comfortable in the setting, the matchup, and the game's rules? 4. Whose laws and orders are more thoroughly implemented, or who is more developed in their character and who in their playstyle? 5. Whose forces are stronger, or who has the more effective arsenal and execution? 6. Whose troops are better trained, or who has the more effective neutral? And 7. Whose rewards and punishments are clearer, or whose game plan is obvious and whose is hidden? Either can be stronger. If you know your opponent well enough, you will have no issue answering these questions. One thing Tsu presses is that we should train ourselves to think in absolute terms. So after performing the comparative evaluation, go ahead and tally up the score before the match even begins. It might not be the correct way to think, but it'll give you a glimpse of the battle's outcome ahead of time. We're not machines, so it might not always reflect the actual outcome, but it also might give you more confidence going into the battle. Ultimately though, it will help you determine your advantages and disadvantages, after which you can adapt your strategy to respond to any imbalance of power that might be present. Of course, there will be many occasions where we don't have the luxury of conducting research on our opponent before the match begins. This eventuality raises the question, how does one test their opponent after the match has already begun? Well, round 1 or game 1 are important chances to collect data and are often referred to as the download round or download game. Just know, your opponent will likely be collecting data as well, so don't reveal your true intentions before you have discovered theirs. After all, warfare is the way of deception. Capable, display incapability. Committed to attacking, feign inactivity. If your objective is near, make it seem distant. If you are far away, create the illusion of being nearby. These are powerful methods of protecting your own information, but they matter not if you don't know what kind of information to look for in your opponent's gameplay. So, here's some methods of testing your opponent in that download game. When it's your advantage, display fake gaps or ends to your pressure, as enticing them to attack in these windows will allow you to set up frame traps as the set moves forward. Playing respectful in Game 1 will allow you to notice your opponent's flaws and weak spots, and once you've identified them, make use of strong, gapless pressure to attack those weak spots with everything you've got. Keep track of their common tools and setups, because they will provide insight into your opponent's overall game plan. If one of their tools is particularly rewarding and difficult to defend against, consider adapting your own game plan to play around that option and avoid it altogether. If they anger easily, choosing options that fuel their anger will continuously weaken their play. If you've been playing for a while or are feeling exhausted, and your opponent is starting from rest, do not slow your momentum. Slowing down will only prolong the fight, providing more time for your exhaustion to set in. Lastly, when you employ these tests, it's important that you do not become predictable and neutral. Don't get me wrong, autopiloting is your best opportunity to take your mind off your own gameplay and analyze your opponent's instead. However, you still need to allocate time to figure out your own mix-ups and how you will change your approach methods to take advantage of the data you've collected. These tests will aid a winning strategy, and they cannot be spoken of in advance. In summary, the key to Sun Tzu's method of initial estimation is to understand the 5 factors. The Tao, or one's heart and resolve. Heaven, or an understanding of your game's rules and systems. Earth, or the stage or setting of one's battle. The General, or one's patience, focus, and confidence, their mind. And the Laws, or one's style and character choice. Tzu claims one who determines the majority of factors is in their favor will surely be victorious. If we observe it from this perspective, victory and defeat will be apparent. But what if you determine that defeat is apparent for you? Well, then it's time to learn, my friend. Nothing more. I hope you've enjoyed this application of the art of war. It was not intended to be a tutorial, but rather just food for thought. This is the first part in what will most likely be a long-running series. That being said, please have some patience with my rate of production. I recently started a new job, and my free time is at an all-time low. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time.